WNYathletics.com would like to thank today's sponsors. Howard Hanna Real Estate Services. Ready to sell your home? Visit howardhanna.com today. Howard Hanna. Home happens here. Western New York Immediate Care, with 4 convenient locations in the Buffalo area: Amherst, Buffalo, Depew, Lancaster, and Orchard Park. Western New York Immediate Care is now offering telemedicine services to provide you care anytime, anywhere. Visit WNY Immediate Care on-site or virtually at WNYimmediatecare.com. Logistics Plus Buffalo is your go-to resource for all your transportation needs. LP moves freight of all shapes and sizes all across the world. Call LP Buffalo today at 716-877-9653 or email buffalo@logisticsplus.com. AdPro Sports. AdPro is the largest team sports dealers and brand merchandise providers in the nation. For a variety of custom merchandise solutions, from apparel to promotional items, visit adprosports.com. Empire Electric. For all your home, business, or office electrical needs, call Empire Electric at 716-634-0330. Free estimates and financing available for all customers. Empire Electric. Call 716-634-0330. Okay, it's time for another edition of WNYA Athletics Inside High School Sports. I am Frank Wolf, joined by my good buddy Tom Prince, Francis Beck. In a little bit, we're going to have Roger Weiss coming in, an old favorite of high school sports. And Tim Linder is here, girls basketball, Western New York girls basketball aficionado. He's like the center court of girls basketball, as you know. And it's been an interesting week here in Western New York. We had, New Year's came and went, and unfortunately we had a little bit of a tragedy with a young lady from North Tonawanda who passed away unexpectedly. Her name was Tracy Woolston. Did I get that right? I didn't get that right. The girls who passed away from North Tonawanda, they celebrated last night at the high school. They had a vigil the night before. It was a very emotional experience. This poor girl that passed away, she was just a junior. She was a member of the lacrosse team. Tom, do you have her first name there?
Yeah, it's Taylor.
Taylor Woolston, yeah. Taylor Woolston. Beautiful.
Joe Krause actually put out what he said.
Yes. Do you want to read that?
You mind if I read that?
Yeah.
So Joe Krause actually led off that night and said, "Ladies and gentlemen, the Lumberyard lost a member of the family over the weekend. North Tonawanda High School student Taylor Woolston passed away this past Sunday. Taylor was very active in North Tonawanda as both a student athlete and as a role model in the community. Known for her kind heart, Taylor impacted the lives of many lumberjacks, past, present, and even future, as shown by gathering here this evening. Our thoughts and prayers are with Taylor's family, her friends, teammates, and co-workers this evening. We now ask that you please join us in a moment of silence to remember Miss Taylor Woolston." I thought Joe did a fantastic job of being able to lead that off.
Sadly, Joe's had to do that before, because he does the PA for football games and things like that. So I know he's had to write unfortunate speeches like that before to start events. So, but Joe did a great job yesterday throughout the game. Everybody was in blue, like in a light blue colored shirt or sweatshirt or a Buffalo Bills shirt. I happened to be wearing blue and didn't even know it, that they chose the blue. I knew they were honoring the young lady. I got there maybe just a couple minutes in, but it was a great game. But it was even more. It was a great night to see that North Tonawanda community come together. They take a bad rap for a lot of different things, a lot of uncalled for things, but it is truly a tight-knit community, and this hit them really hard. And Ryan Mountain, head coach, is also one of Taylor's teachers, and he was very emotional about the whole thing. We spoke to him after the game, and we talked about the game and about boys basketball for sure, but the one thing he really wanted to talk about was Taylor and just how it really affected not just him, but the rest of the school. They had a vigil the night before, as I mentioned, a balloon where they released all these balloons, and he mentioned that, out of all the balloons they released, one of them actually came back down. So he thought that was Taylor showing us that she's still here. She's not ready to say goodbye to us just yet. It was a remarkable moment. It really was. And Ryan said something yesterday that has stuck with me. He said that nothing brings people together more than shared suffering, and that's so true. You know,
It's kind of like what all of Buffalo has been experiencing
Well,
as of late too.
Tom, you remember the Orchard Park community? You guys recently lost. You guys have had some tragedy too. This has been a tough year for Orchard Park. You lost the poor kid that was down in Florida that had graduated with, I believe, your son.
Carson Seffield. It was a year after is Jordan is what it was.
Okay.
Listen, great family, great kids, still trying to find answers right there. Danny Kubik,
Yep.
who big football player in the UB community, and just a friend of the family to boot, and there's been a lot of others too that
Yes.
we haven't even talked about, and it's been a rough year, and it's not only Orchard Park, it's not only Tonawanda, it's been Buffalo. Buffalo
sure.
has really experienced a lot of heartbreak is probably the best word I could use right now.
Yeah. So we'll talk in depth about girls basketball a little later when Tim Linner comes on. I want to circle the wagons here, and again, our hearts go out to the North Tonawanda community. Apologize for getting the name wrong early at the top of the broadcast, but I wasn't in the right frame of mind. You never are when you have to talk about things like this, so my apologies. It was an interesting game last night, to say the least. I love when Olean comes up here. It's a 2-hour drive. I thought they showed out well. There was a good amount of contingent from Olean for sure. Coach, I always mess his name up. Is it Kolowinski? Coach K, I call him, down at Olean, did a fabulous job with rallying the troops. They were down by 10 at one point, rallied back, took the lead. North Tonawanda took it back. McNeil is the big shooter there, big guy. Had a nice three. Mosley had a nice three as well. So North Tonawanda rallied to win that one for Taylor. And
It's Kolosinski.
Kolosinski? Okay. I wasn't too far off. I mean, I can get Prince right. That's a pretty easy one. Or Beck. Can't mess those up. Wolf. It's once you get into 3 and 4 syllables, that's when we're in trouble. As we did in the girls' hockey game the other night with Cash and who was Cash playing? Hughes. There was a lot of Cheskis. Rogers coming up a little later. So, he can get those names down. Aside from that, it's been an interesting week of high school sports. We're back in the thick of things after the winter break. There's been a ton of basketball going on, boys and girls. Some teams were able to go up
games,
to
league schedules are really starting, especially Monsignor and Martin.
Yeah,
We're going to talk about. We probably already had the game of the year for the boys basketball.
Nichols Canisius.
Nichols Canisius.
Yeah.
Yep. Had to be game of the year already.
Yeah.
Double overtime. I mean, come on. And we'll talk a little bit about
Do you want to lead off with boys basketball with a report? Are you ready to do that, or do you want to just put Francis on the? He said do not open up with bowling because he wasn't ready to give a full report on that. So should we go to bowling? Francis, I'm sorry. Now,
So
what do you got with boys basketball?
Start right there. Nichols wins 93-92 in double overtime over Canisius. Ja'Kai Rainey proves again this kid can shoot anywhere in the gym.
Okay.
I mean, we've now watched him for a couple years already. And, I mean, I've watched this kid shoot anywhere from half court to that three-point line, and it is that dangerous. This is the Steph Curry of Western New York is exactly what it is. This kid is that good, and you cannot leave him open. He goes for 51 in that game. 51, folks, we just had. And then also joining him on the scoring front for Nichols was Parker Ray with 19. And then I don't want to also downplay what happened on the other sides, but Shane Cerconi, again, showing why he is one of the top players in Western New York. He's got 42 for Canisius. And in fact, had a shot to actually help send this thing into overtime. I mean, no doubt that Shane is going to be one of the players we're going to be talking about for Player of the Year. When this thing's all said and done, when you look at the basketball world. What we're seeing in Monsignor Martin from basketball standpoint, wow. I mean, when you talk about Nichols and Canisius and St. Joe's and St. Francis and Timon, Timon's another one. Do not forget about them. They are that good this year. And then St. Mary's also. You're talking about just an incredible Monsignor Martin division.
Yeah. up for grabs.
Oh, absolutely. We've already seen.
What about this injury that you guys were going back and forth on yesterday? Do we know about it? Is that something to talk about right now, or is that something?
I don't know enough behind it right here, so I don't want to. I don't want to make a big deal out of it, but it looks like Trey Palfrey has got some sort of injury for Nichols, and it could be out for the season.
Was that in the O'Hara game that he was injured?
See, that's the thing is I don't
Okay.
have enough background yet.
Okay.
We had just heard that he possibly had an injury and could be out for the season.
Because O'Hara had tweeted something out in respect to a kid from Nichols during their basketball game was injured. And that was a pretty good, highly contested game, if I remember correctly, reading about O'Hara and Nichols. Or at least there was some good – it was a good basketball game is what I'm told.
79-43.
Okay, well, that's not okay. I just told him it was a good game. You can't read everything on he can't believe everything on social media these days, I guess.
It just shows you how good Nichols is, though.
Well, for
I
sure.
mean, Nichols is legit. I mean, they are going up and down some of the wins. They've got a win over Canisius now and a win over Aquinas.
Yeah.
Right? Which to me is two huge wins. And I don't want to downplay this, but Lockport is playing real well this year and a win over Lockport. So you're talking about three really good wins that we've seen here, plus a win over Middle Early College, which you know is a perennial team that makes it to Buff State, right? You're talking about a very good resume early on in this season for Nichols.
And next week on the program, we will do an in-depth show on boys basketball. I don't know if we'll get Chad in here. We'll try to get Chad. But I'm sure if Nelson's available, we can bring Nelson in and rap with him about the boys' basketball season because we do need you pretty much need a full 2 hours to break through on that one and really tell the stories of what's going on in boys' basketball. So it's a good update, Tom, for now. But next week here on this
Still got
show.
some more games to talk about.
You do?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but we're running up against
Real
the gun.
quick, you got to talk about the Panama-Westfield game,
Oh, Jesus.
62-61. Carson Swanson with 39 for Westfield. Thought he had the game-winning shot. Gabe Roth comes down. He's got wings down. One of the wings that he passes it into.
Got to get the baseball players in there.
Right? Bryce Hinsdale comes up big.
Got to get the baseball players
shot, 15 points, So Carter Brink, though, 26 for Panama in the win. He kind of was going up the middle on that shot. The wing was Hinsdale. Roth gets it into Hinsdale. Great game-winning shot right there. Also today, Niagara Falls will play Niagara Wheatfield today with everything they're trying to do.
Oh,
a
wow.
big thing for Hamlin today themselves. So they're trying to make sure that you can come in and be able to do something for him to help donate to his charity that everybody's talked about. And then the last one I wanted to talk about was last night. Amherst versus Will East. Okay? I just want to give you the score at the end of the first quarter. Amherst 19, Will East 0 at the end of the first quarter.
Okay.
I'm telling you right now, and I've said it for a little bit, this Amherst team is good.
Yeah, you like their
And
defense.
this defense is really what I've been most impressed about,
Okay.
especially when you see what happens at the top of the key when they go into the zone. I really like these guys, and that right there is proof of it.
What is it about their defense that you really like? Are they just ultra aggressive?
Yes, it's very aggressive.
Fundamentally
especially at the top of the
good,
zone.
where they're not taking fouls and
No.
reaching in and that kind of thing.
And they've got like a good 9, 10 guys deep that'll come off the bench to
Wow.
be that kind of aggressive up at the top of the zone. Yeah. But you'll see when they come up, a lot of double teaming of the zone, really trying to get the ball out of the guard's hands to make a mistake with some sort of pass. And you have some kind of a cross-court pass, watch out, it's a steal.
Okay,
that's
now
going
is
down
this
for two.
because we saw Kenzie take that team all the way out to Glens Falls last year? Is this a completely different defense?
Yes.
So he learned something
Oh,
along
well,
the way,
yeah,
or is he
totally
implementing
different team.
something?
Totally different team.
Well, of
Remember,
course.
he did it with bigs.
Yeah.
He had bigs in the back of the zone. He doesn't have those bigs.
Yeah.
Nick Moore is playing in the back of the zone. He's not playing at the top of the key.
Wow.
Right? So then you've got two guys at the top of the key that's swarming with guys down below that doing something. The question will be when they go against some bigs, what are they
Yeah.
going to be able to do and make that adjustment? But I really do like this team. And it was funny, when we first talked to Coach before early this season, he had said, listen, I may have a team that's been better than last year. We're
Wow.
like, I don't know. You got no
You know.
bigs, and I don't know. But I'll tell you, he legitimately has a solid
North
team.
Tonawanda doesn't really have bigs. and they can get to the basket pretty well
There
and
aren't
shoot.
many teams in Western New York that have bigs
We-
right now.
Yeah, I
Hey,
agree.
guys, Matt O'Rourke is standing by. I think we should try to bring him in. You ready?
Yeah, why not?
All right. Pull him up there.
So Matt O'Rourke is currently at Lancaster High School, where today they've got the duels going on. So basically, it's going to be large school on one side, small schools on the other. O'Rourke, who does our wrestling, provides us with wrestling coverage, not just us, but he also does the arm drag thing, and he's like the voice of wrestling all pretty much throughout the state. So we're going to try and bring him in from Lancaster High School as soon as we can get
He's
a
got to
read
turn
on
his
him.
camera on.
Yeah, is he here yet?
Yeah, Matt, can you hear us?
He's there. I don't know if his audio is there yet, but we're trying to get O'Rourke in. As soon as we do that, you'll know. But currently, like I said, he's down at Lancaster High School, and you've got the large school and small school duels going on. Some of the large school favorites today, when we were talking to Matt yesterday, he liked, Star Point. He likes what's going on with Wheatfield, Niagara Falls, Will North, and Lancaster. So you've got some really big teams there that are, and I believe Amherst is there too, another team that to be reckoned with. On the small school side of things, you got Falconer coming up, you got Chautauqua Lake, you got Newfane, Wilson. It'll be a battle on that large and small school side of things, and we'll be there. That you can watch that though on the NFHS network. It's on the NFHS network. We'll be there. Finals should start right around 4:00. So bear with us. We will bring you live coverage from Lancaster High School today, and that is the Section 6 championships for the dual meets.
And here we go, right here. Here's your Division One. Star Point number 1, 2 Wheatfield, 3 Niagara Falls, 4 Lancaster, 5 Amherst, 6 Will North, Will East, 7th Orchard Park, 8 Clarence. Division 2, number 1 Chautauqua Lake, 2 Newfane, 3 Southwestern, 4 Falconer, Casadega Valley, 5 Wilson, and 6 CSAT.
Look at this good-looking guy. What's up, buddy? What's going on, Matt Rourke, down in Lancaster? You settling in?
Can you hear me?
Loud and clear. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I got you guys.
What's up, Matt?
Just got here, just rolled in, got my Auburn hat on. I got roasted in the first weekend of the season for not having my Auburn hat on. I always wear my Auburn hat, one of them, so I gotta wear my Auburn hat. Yeah, I mean, the teams are all here, they're warming up, it's like everyone's putting in. There's coaches meeting now, so it looks like it'll start on time. It's good.
Matt, we all read your preview this weekend. You still confident with your picks?
Well, I avoided picks this time, but I will say publicly here that I think Star Point will probably win Division One, and I think the winner of Falconer Chautauqua Lake will probably in the semifinal will probably win Division Two. That's my bold pick for today. I will say though, however, number 1 seed in Division One has never won this tournament. So keep that in mind. In the five tournaments, 4 contested tournaments, number 1 seed's never won here. So we'll see what happens with that.
So who are some of the big matches you're looking to see today? I mean, it may not be the finals, but are there certain matches today that you're really looking forward to that are almost must-sees for Western New York wrestling fans?
Yeah, I mean, in the quarter, there'll be 4 quarterfinals for Division One, but it's only going to be 2 for Division Two since there's only 6 schools. In the first round, I think we'll see a pretty good, who's the 4 seed, Lancaster, and I think we'll see Lancaster, Amherst. I could have a pretty good first round match. I'm going to keep my eye on that one in the quarterfinals. Obviously, for Lancaster's 4 seed, Amherst the 5 seed, and we'll see who wins out of that one. Whoever advances out of that one will likely take on Star Point. Star Point versus Clarence in the first round, the 8th seed. I'm also looking forward to Williamsville North, Niagara Falls in the first round. Niagara Falls is the 3 seed. Williamsville North is the 6th seed. I'm looking forward to that one too.
Anybody that's not wrestling today that's maybe on the injured list that would contribute normally to their team, or do we have full rosters heading into today's duels?
I'm not sure every single roster is full. I know most of them are full, which is a big reason why many of these teams are here to make it this far because they have a full roster. Let me say this, I did do my roundup this week, my dual roundup. Let me give a big shout out to CSAT for not only flying me in this tournament, but put out a full roster. That team's only existed, guys, since like 2015-16 season, and now they have a full roster. And they regularly have to take on some of the good. They're in a tough division with Niagara Falls, Niagara program out of town. Yeah, I just see full rosters for the most part. Falls, Orchard Park, um, Faulkner, of course, Chocolate Lake. Not sure if they have a full roster. They may have a forfeit now and then just because of whatever, but Chocolate Lake may not have a full roster, which don't quote me. I believe they do regularly. What they might not have for a full roster, they make with plenty of talent throughout the lineup.
Good stuff, Matt. So you're going to be at Lancaster all day long, drinking a lot of coffee. You're going to be, doing your social media thing. So where can people find wrestling results or updates? What's your Twitter handle for our fans out there?
So my Twitter handle is @Matt_O'Rourke1. I also have, you can also obviously go on WNYA Athletics Twitter. Everyone knows that. Got plenty of followers from there. I also got a Wrestling Roundtable, my other Twitter handle, WNY Roundtable. It's dedicated to wrestling. We've also got Instagram account, WNY Roundtable, same thing, plenty of wrestling content there. Also a Facebook page, plenty of content on there. Probably mainly stick to Twitter today just because things will be happening fast, but of course I'll be recapping everything. And then we'll obviously be live for the final matches later today. So it should be really good. I have a feeling that we could see all Niagara County final
Wow.
with Beefield and Starpoint, two very, very powerful teams. I imagine that if those two make the final, I imagine the loser will probably go to the state tournament as a wild card. The state dual meet tournament is Saturday, January 28th in Syracuse. I will be there for that. And actually, that Friday before, I'm trying to get there too, is the first intersectional girls individual wrestling invitational as well. So that's kind of a neat little thing they're doing in the same weekend. Shout out ISPA executive committee and everybody involved in that. In Division Two, like I said, I think we'll see the winner of Chicago Lake Faulkner likely probably win. However, we'll see Newfane and Southwestern, I think, in the semifinal in small schools, and I'm very interested to see how that one ends up. Southwestern's been on the rise. They have three wrestlers with returning state tournament experience this year, including a state place winner. Newfane, of course, is the defending small school champion. Let's not forget about that one. They've had a fantastic season, kind of flying under the radar right now, so they always find to cook something up. Coach Kuczynski and Coach Blinken, so I'll be keeping an eye on that semifinal as well, assuming Southwestern wins their first round match.
Matt, we're seeing all the wrestlers getting warmed up behind you. What's the atmosphere like right now in that Russ Salvatore Fieldhouse?
It's pretty good. It's exciting. This tournament. Is that Lewitt? Look at there goes Lewitt.
He's always trying to get on camera.
Yeah. Yeah, bud. Yeah. Scotty. Oh, you saw fan favorite Scotty. He called me last night. He had a present for me. He gave me a picture of the Faulkner 2020 state champion team. That's pretty cool. Check that out.
Very nice.
He signed it for me too. Scotty King. The atmosphere here is very good. It's actually very lively. When I showed up here, everybody's already warming up. These guys are ready to go. I think as soon as this coaches meeting is over with. So, yeah, there's plenty of space for fans, for anybody coming out here today. On the side that normally fans are, I'm looking at the back wall towards the back practice fields. Um, Behind me, closer to the school side, is where all the fans go. There's plenty of space over there. There's two less fans here this year because of the two missing teams in small school.
Nice.
The vibe is good. Obviously, the schedule last year was kind of it kind of sucked you a little bit with the first round matches at different schools, and then remember some of those first round matches got canceled because of the weather. So there was only three small schools here last year and four big schools. It was kind of thin, but it's got the vibe of the year prior. The last time we were here doing the covering this year at Lancaster when there was 16 teams, 8 big schools, 8 small schools. So hopefully that makes a return next year. There was one more thing I want to say. What was it? All right. Anyway, I forgot. Let's move on.
It's all right, Matt. You got a lot going on today. You're going to be a very busy guy. I know a lot of people that are in tune with what's going on in the wrestling world are going to be following you if they're not there already, because wrestling people, they come out, they show up for events like this. But again, if you can't make it out for the finals, we will have it on the NFHS network. Matt, you're going to be, I believe, on Matt 2 with the small schools with Mark Johnson. Then I've got Joe Scapoletti on Matt 1 with the large schools. Looking forward to that. And
Scapoletti is the campus, and obviously you can have. We're doing two separate streams, not like last year or anything where we split or 3 years ago where we kind of moved the camera. It's one stream per mass. So if you want to watch whoever in the small schools, you'll see that the whole time. If you want to watch the big schools, you see that one the whole time. And of course, we'll have Coach Scapoletti here. He's a heavy hitter, has experience as a coach
Nice. Matt, have an awesome time out there today. I'll be following closely, and I'll be looking for you right around the 3 o'clock hour. Francis should be there a little earlier, setting us up. And we look forward to broadcasting this event today for the NFHS Network and showcasing our talented Section 6 wrestlers.
All right, guys. Yeah, awesome. Sounds good, Frank. Hey, everybody. Good morning. Yeah, I'll catch you guys later. Thanks for having me on.
See you, bud. That was Matt O'Rourke of Western New York Athletics High School Wrestling Coverage. Nobody does it any better. I want to take a quick break. We're going to come back. We'll run through bowling and hockey, but we'll probably have Roger Weiss. You got more?
Just one thing.
What are you going to yell at?
Pioneer's not here
Oh, yeah.
for wrestling. Pioneer needs to be recognized for their win over Springville, 60th consecutive win in wrestling right there on the mat. So give them some recognition too.
In their division or Section 6?
Yeah, in their division.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Very good. Excellent job. The coach there's a good dude. But anyways, we will be back in just a little bit. You're watching WNYA Athletics High School Sports Saturday with Frank Wolf, Tom Prince, and Francis Beck. We'll be back after word from our sponsors.
Western New York Immediate Care's new locations are now open. Whether you've suffered a minor injury or just aren't feeling well, Western New York Immediate Care provides safe, quick, high-quality care at an affordable cost. Our clinicians are trained to diagnose and treat non-life-threatening injuries and illnesses and are equipped with on-site x-ray and labs to help you feel better, faster. With 4 convenient locations open 7 days a week, Western New York Immediate Care is here to help when and where you need us. Visit us online to learn more.
Logistics Plus is a global transportation provider headquartered in Erie, PA with locations worldwide, including right here in Western New York. Logistics Plus is consistently recognized as a fast-growing transportation and logistics company, great supply chain partner, top freight broker, leading project cargo manager, and a great place to work. With a strong passion for excellence, our 500-plus employees put the plus in logistics. Call our Buffalo office today for an efficient, personal approach for all of your transportation needs.
Western New York Immediate Care's new locations are now open. Whether you've suffered a minor injury or just aren't feeling well, Western New York Immediate Care provides safe, quick, high-quality care at an affordable cost. Our clinicians are trained to diagnose and treat non-life-threatening injuries and illnesses and are equipped with on-site x-ray and labs to help you feel better, faster. With 4 convenient locations open 7 days a week, Western New York Immediate Care is here to help when and where you need us. Visit us online to learn more.
When it's time to sell your home, start with a visit to howardhanna.com, ranked the #1 real estate site for sellers. A few clicks will show you the sales price you can expect for your home. We can get you the most money in the quickest amount of time because we know where the local buyers are and how to reach them. So if it's time to sell your home, visit howardhanna.com today, and we'll match you with a local Howard Hanna agent to sell your home fast.
Being home.
If you've been injured in an auto accident, large or small, call 681-4088. RES Physical Medicine and Rehab right away. If you are in pain or just sore, don't take chances. Call RES today and take advantage of their 24 to 48-hour appointment pledge. With no copays, RES will help navigate the confusing world of no-fault insurance with you, so you can concentrate on getting better. 681-4088. RES Physical Medicine and Rehab. The most important call you can make after an auto accident.
300 Level Media is a locally owned and operated, multi-purpose media company right here in Western New York. You'll find us everywhere, covering the Bills, Sabres, Buttes, Bisons, Big Four basketball, local college sports, and much more. Our staff offers a variety of media services, from video production, live event coverage, audio broadcasts, professional voiceovers, camera operation, and videography. Visit www.300levelmedia.com or give us a call at 716-427-2600. This is 300 Level Media.
Do you insure a lot of businesses?
Yes, we do.
How about restaurants?
We got a bunch.
Do you cover property damage?
Yes, we do.
How about my equipment?
Covered.
How about sewer backup?
We got it.
What if my cook gets hurt?
They're covered.
Foodborne illnesses?
Covered.
What if my party tent goes down?
Covered under property damage.
And you say this is all under one policy?
One policy.
When do I pay?
Once a month.
Just one time?
Just one.
Is there anything you don't cover?
What's your record for consecutive questions asked?
31.
Tables. We don't do tables.
Gotta love Buffalo.
For all your insurance questions, call the Wolf at 835-WOLF.
Logistics Plus is a global transportation provider headquartered in Erie, PA with locations worldwide, including right here in Western New York. Logistics Plus is consistently recognized as a fast-growing transportation and logistics company, great supply chain partner, top freight broker, leading project cargo manager, and a great place to work. With a strong passion for excellence, our 500-plus employees put the plus in logistics. Call our Buffalo office today for an efficient, personal approach for all of your transportation needs.
When it's time to sell your home, start with a visit to howardhanna.com. Ranked the #1 real estate site for sellers. We can get you the most money in the quickest amount of time because we know where the local buyers are and how to reach them. Get started today at howardhanna.com.
Call 835-WOLF. Remember, you calling the Wolf, that's all you had to say.
WNYA Athletics putting the show on again like we do each and every Saturday here. And now Tom, Francis, and I are joined by Roger Weiss to my right, probably your left at home. And Tom has Tim Linder next to him. To his left, your right at home. Francis Beck is still producing. He's still here. He doesn't want to be on camera any longer, though, for whatever reason. He does have a camera. That camera works, right? I mean, if you wanted to be... You don't need a mic. We can still see your face. You do have an audience, people that want to see you. Know you're alive. Your mom's watching. Anyways, we talked a little bit about boys basketball, and we are going to get you some bowling and hockey updates in a little bit. I was at the Will North Orchard Park game this past Thursday night. Will North won. It was a real nice game for them. Nice win. Much needed win because Orchard Park beat them 5-0 earlier in the year. And that girls hockey game we did that day, Hughes beat Cash. Anzel, I believe her name is, had 3 goals in that game against Cash. She's playing really well. Their goaltender, Buchinski.
In the old country, we say Bohinski.
I asked somebody about that.
Well, it sounds like Stu would reply, well, you're not in the old country anymore.
No, we're not. So we're getting there, though.
Really?
So anyways, that was that. Kenji's still kicking butt. They're in first place for girls. And Lancaster is 8-0 in boys hockey. And you know who one of the assistant coaches there is? Someone you all know well, Sean Brusso.
Oh, wow. Dipping into hockey now.
He's doing some coaching on the hockey team. No, they're out of town. I believe right now they won't be around. They're not doing any games this weekend. I think they went to Messina. Don't quote me on that, but I think they were heading out of town, and I want to say they were going to Messina. No. When we go to the football clinic, when we do that football clinic February 2nd through the 4th, they're going out to Messina. That's why he won't be at the clinic. I asked him about that. But they're looking pretty good. He was at the North Orchard Park game doing some scouting, as only Sean can do, because he is a whiz when it comes to game planning and things like that, whether it's football and obviously now with the case with hockey. So... and as I mentioned, so Will North's doing pretty good with that big win. Will East is doing really well, and they play Thursday night. There's going to be a teddy bear toss at the Northtown Center. That's Thursday, and I believe it's an 8 o'clock puck drop, 8:15. We'll be there streaming that one. That'll be a good game for sure. Want to send a shout out to Rick Hopkins, the coach at Williamsville. He's had a rough year. He's had a tough year. Rick, I'm thinking about you. We're all thinking about you, and just keep your head up, man. Things will get better. Girls basketball. We're off to a rocking start. I want to get both your guys' opinion on what's going on. Tim, you do an awful lot of traveling. You follow around girls basketball. You've been doing it for a number of years. You're a pollster with the Buffalo News. Your wife, Mindy, I don't know if she's the best coach in the family, but Missy, yeah. She's a huge advocate for girls basketball, not just high school, but at even the lower levels, and she was a tremendous coach. Her sister was a great player. It's a basketball family for sure, and that's probably why you guys get along so well, because your love of basketball, and you guys travel. You guys just don't stay in Western New York. You guys will go down to Binghamton or wherever they happen to have the state finals. You'll travel with your dad, I believe, too.
Yeah, I've been. Last year, obviously, with the state title. State championships being back in full on the basketball side was my first time going to Albany.
Wait a second. Time out. Hang on. You're a Kenmore West guy, aren't you?
Oh,
Yeah, all right, good. We outnumber Francis.
We won't hold it. We won't hold that against them.
Why would you hold it against them? The Blue Devils, they're playing great.
Because when you say he went to Ken, I say, he went to Kensington?
Francis, there's two Kenmore West guys in here, so watch what you say today, pal.
It's actually, I believe this is the 20th anniversary season of the Ken West girls regional team.
Nice.
From when I was a junior in high school. That dates me a little bit there.
But let's start with the Monsignor Martins before we get into the section Class A's down to D. Let's start with Monsignor Martin. What team has caught your eye? Who are a couple of the teams in the Monsignor Martin that have surprised you, and who is leading the way at this point in the season?
Yeah, so I mean, when you talk not only Monsignor Martin girls hoops, but West New York girls hoops, over the past decade plus, you got to start with O'Hara. They've again started with a tough, non-league slate. Played a couple teams from Pennsylvania to open the season, and then went down to Florida for a 3-game set right before the blizzard, and actually had a heck of a time getting back. But they dropped a couple games in those non-league tournaments, but it's as usually only going to serve them better in the long run. They played their first local game against St. Mary's a few nights ago, and it was pretty back and forth after one, but they really turned up the defensive pressure and pulled away from a young but solid St. Mary's team in the second quarter and throughout the second half. So they're starting well, led by Kyla Hayes, returning first team All-West New Yorker. Still just a sophomore, recently broke the 1,000-point mark for her career. She played her middle school seasons at Maryvale, so obviously those points had carried over for her. Also, Jordan Williams is their 1B, if you call Kyla the 1A. Definitely a defensive stopper, probably the best on-ball defender in Western New York. Not named Maddie Francis. But they've been leading the way the past couple seasons for O'Hara. They also have the Day sisters, Annabelle and Brittany Day, transferred in from North Tonawanda this year, and starting 5 is rounded out by Olivia Russell, very good 3-point shooter, and her all-around game is also improving. The entire starting 5, probably the best overall starting 5, 1 through 5 in Western New York. They are pretty short benched, but if that starting 5 can keep out of foul trouble and barring any injuries, they're definitely the team to beat. Still in the MMA, and probably still in Western New York, although they do have a huge clash with Lancaster coming up Tuesday of next week. One of 2 games against Lancaster, as the second game was added due to cancellations on Lancaster's side. They were supposed to play in a tournament down in Amsterdam, New York, over the blizzard the blizzard week there.
It's a big week for them, period, because they're also going to see Nichols. Is who they're going to see this week too. Yeah.
The following Monday, Martin Luther King Day, they play an 11 o'clock game at Hilbert College.
Yeah, I believe that kicks off a big slate of boys games following that.
Yep. We'll be there doing all the games. Let's just go, Tim, real quick. Those teams that you talked about, them going out of the area, are teams we recognize here in Western New York. They played Cathedral Prep.
Yeah,
they played Mount Lebanon, right? Kellenberg Memorial, Holy Trinity, Convent of the Sacred Heart, and Connolly School of the Holy Child, and Owen Roberts. So they went all over the map right there to get things started, and obviously challenging that team early on this season to get them ready for the run they need to do.
And how important are those games? Bennett took a couple, Bennett football now, those 2 games out of state where they actually lost. How much did that improve that Bennett team? Those 2 losses can only help O'Hara. O'Hara's biggest problem is...
It's more than 2 losses. Actually, it was 4 losses.
Well, no.
They dropped a couple games in the Florida tournament, too.
Again, how important are those for the development? Biggest problem O'Hara has is because of their, and I'll call it over-aggressiveness. They get in foul trouble once they get to the bench, there's a drop off.
And that happens with a lot of teams in Western New
Yeah,
York. It's like you said, Tim. You're going to match up the top 5 against anybody, right? And even if you're still pulling somebody off that bench, you still got 4 quality young women right there that can easily. But I will say this: the one team that can really challenge them, they're going to see Tuesday.
Lancaster, right?
Yep.
And I would even go so far to say that I expect a really big challenge from Nichols as well.
I agree.
Nichols is a surprise team of the year, in my opinion.
Yeah, and if you're talking, Frank, like you said, anybody that's caught your eye that maybe wasn't on the tippy top of anyone's radar, I think that
Nichols
has to start with Nichols. And
they did a number on Will South.
Oh yeah,
Did a number. Didn't just eke out a win. They borderline humiliated them.
Well, you got to remember with Will South right now is that team's still trying to find its way a little bit because you've got a superstar right there, but it's the supporting cast that go along with the superstar right there that needs to start coming along the way. And I think as they get more games under their belt, you're going to see them get better and better as a team moving forward in here.
They'll get used to Kristen, and she'll get used to them.
if you remember last year with Will South as well, they had a fairly slow start by their standards to the season. They dropped a number of league games, before the the playoff time rolled around. But by the time sectional play came around, they were firing on all cylinders, and of course had that classic against Hamburg in the A crossover game, and made it back to regional.
But that's the beauty of a season.
Well, she does the same thing, Frank. She'll go and be very aggressive early on in the season with her schedule, right? She's challenging these young women to get better and become better as a team.
You have to know what hand you're dealt. I mean, you pick the team, number one. You pick the team. So you know what you're getting. You pick your team. You have tryouts and all the other sort of things. You have your team. You know who's coming back. And you have your feeder system, right? So you kind of know what you're getting into. You know what's coming along, and you have a hand in that feeder system. But at the same time, you have a long season. You can get blown out in the first few weeks. You're trying new things. You have new pieces in place. It's no different than boys basketball. You have new pieces in place. You're running maybe a new offense. You're putting in new plays. You have someone else bringing the ball up the court. Maybe you're playing with not your full lineup. Maybe there's someone that's not in basketball shape yet because they played soccer or volleyball or football. So they're not in basketball step just yet. And it takes a little while to get into, to be comfortable out there, to understand who you're playing with and understand what's going on. That's why film is so important. These practices are so important. And she's going to, we're talking about the Will South coach, Ms. Dolan. She's going to break that film down for those in a way that those players can understand and have them going when they need to go. They'll know. They'll be ready, like a lot of other teams. They'll be ready when it's time to go. We haven't seen anybody's best basketball just yet.
And I think something also to consider, when you not just like you said, Frank, you have players coming from other sports, coming onto the basketball court, but also when you have talking about the top players, players like Gretchen Dolan and Maddie Francis and Claire Strack, who played for Exodus this year, and Dolan played for Philly Rise. When you have the top players playing for some of the top AAU teams in the country, inherently playing with some of the other top players in the country, it's going to take a while for them to get back into the swing of things, playing with players not at that not at that national level.
Players that play JV that are just playing varsity for the first time is the best way to explain it. It's a different, it definitely is a different speed of the game because it's almost slowing down what they're used to.
Yeah, so it goes both ways in terms of those players having to up their level, playing with the top player, but also that player not lowering their level, but again, like you said,
no, but slowing it down, I think, is a better way to do it. Yeah.
Plus, you have coaches with two different philosophies. There are coaches out there in these non-league games that are going to showcase their main player to try to get them as high on the elite status for Western New York, and it slightly overrates some of them. Whereas you get the opposite end of the spectrum. They use December and early January to develop the rest of the squad to see how they blend in with the top players. So come February, they're ready to compete against anybody.
That's an excellent point.
You know, I do want to make one point on that Cardinal Harris St. Mary's game. Remember, St. Mary's lost a huge player in Shea Chesky, right? And I do want to recognize her. I did put a big tweet on her this week. 21 points against nationally ranked Michigan that she's coming to. She really, as a freshman, I can't believe what we're seeing her do on the national stage. I cannot wait to see if she keeps going year after year here. She's going to be something special to watch. And really, what she doesn't realize she's doing is she's bringing more eyeballs here to Western New York to be able to see players come out of here.
It took her 4 games to be starting point guard at Penn State. That is amazing.
Well, let me ask you guys an honest question. Was she carrying St. Mary's of Lancaster?
Yeah, I mean,
she doesn't have to do that at the college level. Now she's got complementary players, and now you're seeing the real Shea Chesky. And we thought she was going to be very good at the next level. Turning out she's been great at the next level, and she's got a long collegiate career still ahead of her.
At St. Mary's, she was what? If she was 6 foot, it was with spiked high heels.
Yeah, she was taking the jump at some point last
year.
year.
She had a jump center on that team. She guarded the tallest player in all her high school games.
Yep, and she was tough. She's a tough competitor. Moving on, though, what are the more intriguing Monsignor Martin matchups coming up over the next couple of weeks? I know O'Hara has a couple of big games with Lancaster coming up.
And Nichols will.
Okay, so Nichols is the game on the 12th.
So the way that the MMA is formatted this year on the girls' side, it's kind of a fluid thing, fluid league set up and schedule depending on the strength of some of the programs year in and year out. But the A division, if you want to call it that, this year is just 5 teams. So that includes O'Hara, Nichols, St. Mary's, Sacred Heart, and Narden. So those 5 teams will play a home-and-home league schedule against each other.
You got 30
so that'll be the extent of the MMA league games. So the O'Hara and Nichols home-and-home clashes would be certainly the marquee MMA league games.
If you look at, there really isn't. So I got the schedule up right here, Frank, real quick. Just no dates. Lancaster, Nichols, Hamburg, Sacred Heart, Cathedral Prep again, Bishop Kearney, which we already know how good they are, Narden, Lancaster, Will South, St. Mary's, Nichols, Sacred Heart, Bishop Kearney again, Narden. That's their schedule to finish out this year.
So
Cardinal O'Hara is aggressive.
They play Kearney home and home?
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah, and they'll have
home and away.
That's what I meant.
With Kearney and Nichols and now Lancaster with the added second game, I mean, that's talk about no days off.
Which is great. I mean, he's challenging this team to say we want to go after a state championship.
Oh, for sure. And I think with they do have players with a lot of varsity experience, but they are still in the grand scheme of things a young team. I mean, you have 3 juniors, a sophomore and a freshman, or you're starting 5, and essentially, as we've been talking about, that's players are going to get 95% of the minutes on that team, or you're starting 5.
There's not a senior on that squad.
Yeah. And we knew that coming into this year, that was what was going to happen, was they were going to be young coming on, and they're going to be fun to watch, and they're going to be fun to watch for a couple of years. Yeah. And remember, even the Cathedral Prep game, I remember, that's how they kicked off their schedule. They lost 70-36 to them. So what would be great to see is because of the schedule and what they've seen, how different that game looks on the 21st that they're going to be able to play.
I fully expect a much closer game, and that take nothing away from Cathedral Prep, who is, to my knowledge, that's Villa Maria merged with Cathedral Prep. Villa Maria was the premier Erie PA girls program for a while, and so now they're under the Cathedral Prep banner essentially, but same program. So they've competed for a lot of Pennsylvania state titles in the past recent past, so that's a huge test again. But I would definitely expect a better, closer result from O'Hara in that game.
Tom, you said a couple of years Kayla Hayes is a sophomore. Annabelle Day is a 9th grader. Those two will carry that team for the next 2 years.
Hayes was a big player last year on this team.
Yes.
I mean, she was an impact player last year as a freshman. I remember watching her. I couldn't believe, her and her on that team. You could just see the way she goes up and down the court. I know she plays as a big, but she, in essence, could really play just about anywhere on the court when you saw what she's athletically capable of doing.
Oh, yeah. I mean, she's...
Likewise, Brittany Day, the younger Day sister.
Annabelle Day, yeah.
Annabelle's a 9th grader. I mean, Brittany, the junior's no slouch either, but like I say, the next 2-3 years, it's only going to get better for O'Hara. There's going to be no fall off.
And in talking, speaking of that game they just had with St. Mary's, I mean, St. Mary's is really in the same boat. I mean, replacing, a player like Shea Chesky is an impossible task, but they brought in a number of young players, and they're, looks like they're going to have a very strong young core. They're even younger than O'Hara is. They have Emily McDonald is probably their top player this year. She's only a freshman. And then
comes from Orchard Park, right?
Yeah.
And she played Orchard Park varsity last year is what she played.
For a couple of years.
Yep. So, I mean, she's already seen it on that stage, and she's lit it up already as an 8th grader at the varsity level.
Yeah, she had a very strong year last year for, a AA school, which you don't see very often for that young of a player. And, she's
Which is what Kayla,
this year at St. Mary's.
What Kayla Hayes did at Maryville as an 8th grader.
Oh, yeah, she was, certainly carrying that team on
What?
her back.
In that game they lost, where they scored 34 points, she had 32.
Yeah, tremendous player, and like you're saying, Tom, her versatility, and this same really goes for Maddie Francis of Lancaster. The ability of those players to not only play but also have the ability to defend at the 1 through 5. When they play some of these top teams that they're playing, either in a non-league or even in the league now in the MMA or ECIC. It's something that you really just very seldom see in this area, and it's just building on that point. It's been great to see over the last decade the top players in the area have seeming to raising their level of play, and not saying that in the past level of play hasn't been great in this area, but it seems, at least from my vantage point, that the very tippy top players, the highest level players in this area, have been really, growing, and whether it's through getting more exposure, whether it's through, playing at a higher level of AAU, or coupled with just, getting better themselves and having more opportunities. We've seen a lot more players go on to play at the highest levels.
We got more coming.
And there's plenty more to come with the younger players, especially the younger players that we're talking about.
And I'll tell you, what could even be a great matchup right here is Hayes and Francis. Go ahead, because you got to think they're going to have to match up head-to-head with each other at one point in that game, right? If not for most of the game, right? And again, two very similar type players. And when I say that, meaning, as we already know, Francis can play any position on that court. I don't care how tall she is, right? Because at the next level, she could play point guard, right? She could play shooting guard just because of the height that's out there.
Tom, you're still in my thunder. Maddie Francis, you know who she reminds me of? Brittany Stewart. When Stewie was at Cicero North. I remember the first time I set eyes on her. She was like 6'3", 6'4", team picture, holding 2 basketballs, palm up behind the rest of the team. And I said, oh boy, another big drink of water who can't get out of her own way when the game starts. The game starts, she's bringing the ball up the court as the point guard. Well, that's what Maddie Francis can do. I expect nothing but huge things out of Madison Francis.
She's going to put one down in one of these games.
You stole
She's
my
going to
thunder.
put one down with an audience there. No, we already know she can.
Wow.
But she's going to do it in a game, and she is going to electrify everybody around her. And could you imagine she's gonna? You just see it. She's gonna do it at a big spot, and when
only
she
a
does
10th grader.
Yeah, I mean, she's
I'm serious.
got she's also a tremendous track and field athlete, particularly on the jumping side. So it's only gonna help her chances to possibly throw it.
Put the game into perspective. O'Hara Lancaster.
Again,
does she have the parts around her to help them compete with a team like O'Hara?
But remember, O'Hara goes 5 deep, and Lancaster is very deep themselves, right? There's no doubt about it. But in games like this, right, it's usually the supporting cast, and it's somebody's got to step up to be able to win that game, right? It's usually the same, because you got to look at stars will neutralize themselves. They're going to get their points, right? Whether it's 20, 25, I don't know what the scoring is, they're going to get their points. Who's the supporting cast? Who's going to be the one to step up and have their game that day in order for your team to win?
Yeah, and I mean, you talk about Lancaster's supporting cast, and it's an experienced one. There's the other 4 starters surrounding Francis are all seniors right now,
and they're all good.
Oh yeah, it's particularly they can all sort of have their their thing that they're the best at on the team. You start with Rachel Komrowski, another returning large school first teamer. Great 3-point shooter. Great, really does well to get out on the break and turn a lot of those Francis blocks and defensive plays into easy points on the other end. You got Casey Mahoney and Brooke Bauer who have been playing really sound defense recently, and good athletes in themselves, and just that experience of playing together for 3-4 years, and now adding in Francis the last year and of course this season, is only gonna help them against a team as strong as O'Hara, and I think getting the experience of last year, especially in that regional game against Bishop Kearney. Last year Lancaster didn't play perhaps the strongest non-league schedule, and I think that might have hurt them a bit in the long run, especially against Kearney in that regional game, and you saw that by the fact of early on in that game they sort of were a little shell-shocked, I think, and got down early, clawed their way back, made it a game in the second half. But now with something like that under their belt, and this season they're really challenging themselves on the non-league schedule. Again, they were supposed to go out to play a couple games in a big invitational out in Amsterdam that unfortunately got canceled on their end due to the blizzard, but they're filled those 2 spots in the schedule with O'Hara and Nichols, so you can't do much better than that.
You can see his 3 players double digits, right? Madison Francis, Rachel Komrowski, Casey Mahoney, name that you may ring a bell there for as a brother that has been big on the football realm there. Brooke Bauer, right on the edge right there of double digits, so 4 in double digits. Casey reminds me a lot too of last year when you saw Hamburg play, and you had Strack and you had why am I blanking the center down there?
Yeah, I know.
And I'm
volleyball player.
Maddie Harriman.
Madison Harrison.
Yeah. So there you go. Very similar type player, right? That really can help Maddie down low and be able to bang down low with some of the best down there. Really put some rebounding, really put some big putbacks right there. Really reminds me a lot of that game, especially when you're looking for that complement to your star that's out there.
Yeah, and I think in a game against a team like O'Hara that could prove really large, and O'Hara really doesn't have that post presence this year. It's really Kyla Hayes is their post presence if they're going to play that, or they might play more of a 5-out against a team like Lancaster, but that rebounding presence from Mahoney inside.
Don't underestimate
a big factor in that.
Don't underestimate Jordan Williams. So she gets lost in the shuffle, but she's impressive. Now you talk about this Lancaster team, and unfortunately, the gentleman to my right lets me know he's much too young to remember. But this Lancaster team reminds me of the Jamestown Lady Raiders back in 2007. The only reason they didn't win the state championship, they couldn't get by a Rush Henrietta team that were led by a player, Shanice Johnson was her name, who ended up having a cup of coffee in the WNBA. Well, Lancaster has a similar problem going up against Bishop Kearney. To me, assuming they would get by everybody, and Kearney would get by everybody in Section 5, the Kearney-Lancaster matchup would be the de facto New York State Championship game.
That game will be played at Buff State, if
Yes.
it happens.
The Section 5, Section 6 regionals this year are at Buff State.
And last year,
Bad
wasn't it a
news
home game
is-
for Kearney? It was a home game for Kearney last year, wasn't it?
Well,
It was
Section 5.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
They were held at Rush Henrietta,
Right.
but essentially down the street from.
Yeah, see, they don't do like a neutral site like we do here in Section 5 with Buff State, where all the games are. It's held usually at one of the schools there. We've even seen that on all the different sports, is what we're seeing.
Yeah, they moved
depends on
it
the year
away
sometimes,
from. They used to play at the Blue Cross Arena. I mean, I don't know if the girls did. The boys used to play at Blue Cross. I don't know if they play there anymore or not.
Well, I want to come back to this and take a quick little break, maybe a 30-second break, Francis, just to get a glass of water. We'll be back after a word from our sponsors. You're watching the High School Sports Saturday Show on WNYA Athletics.
Sometimes it just isn't your day. We all need a little help from time to time. That's why we're committed to providing safe, quick, and cost-effective care. And we keep it simple. Just walk in. We're here for you. Learn more today.
Do you insure a lot of businesses?
Yes, we do.
How about restaurants?
We got a bunch.
Do you cover property damage?
Yes, we do.
How about my equipment?
Covered.
How about sewer backup?
We got it.
What if my cook gets hurt?
They're covered.
Foodborne illnesses?
Covered.
What if my party tent goes down?
Covered under property damage.
And you say this is all under one policy?
One policy.
When do I pay?
Once a month.
Just one time?
Just one.
Is there anything you don't cover?
What's your record for consecutive questions asked?
31.
Tables. We don't do tables.
Gotta love Buffalo.
For all your insurance questions, call the Wolf at 835-WOLF.
We realize now more than ever is the perfect time to have the perfect house. We're confident we'll find your dream home. Howard Hanna. Home happens here.
Years ago, like 20.
Well, not to say you don't like hockey, because for a long time you were a Sabres season ticket holder.
Oh yeah, I had Diane and I had season tickets, first row blues, every year at the old barn.
Nice. Saw some good hockey.
Absolutely.
And some bad
And
hockey.
those were the days when hockey was hockey.
I miss them too.
I saw Cordy Howe, the great '99, Bobby Hull, you name them. The French Connection, obviously. Oh yeah, hockey was #1 back then.
So, Tom, why don't you take over with the guys? You guys are going to continue the discussion with girls basketball here in Section 6.
Yeah, so we're going to go through conference by conference is what we're going to go through here. We've obviously talked a lot about Lancaster, and Lancaster not only is the top team in ECIC 1 right now, but in all of Western New York, where we're going to see them absolutely compete for that top spot with this big game that we've already talked about with Cardinal O'Hara. But, Tim, how about we talk about what's next in ECIC? I mean, obviously Jamestown is one of the teams that we're going to talk about year after year. Orchard Park losing some of their players right there, trying to find themselves right now. Frontier also off to a start, but why don't you tell us what to expect right now in ECIC 1?
So talking ECIC 1, obviously as we stated, Lancaster, definitely a cut above at the moment. But the next crop of teams in ECIC 1, and it really includes almost, the entire remainder of ECIC 1, we'll be battling it out for the second, third, fourth slots, and positioning within the AA bracket for the majority of them as well. Clarence and Jamestown, I would say at this point, probably the second and third best teams in ECIC 1. They played a few weeks back in a very close game that Jamestown came out on top of after a huge third quarter up in Clarence. A couple of players on those teams to keep an eye out for the rest of the season. On Clarence, you have Hannah Farley and Ella Corey, sort of a 1-2 punch for Clarence. They're impact players over the past couple of seasons, and are very experienced for Clarence to potentially get back to the Class AA final where they were the past number of years. They won Class AA in the shortened COVID season, and then reached the AA final last year and lost to Lancaster. Jamestown, again, Ken Ricker again back at the helm at Jamestown has the Raiders really running, running. If you know a Ken Ricker team, but they're led by Marley Drake, Kaylee O'Brien, Allison Canfield. From really sharpshooters on the team. They obviously get on the transition, like to press if possible. Had a tough one this week that we were at in Lancaster. Again, a very tough matchup there. But
Tom, did you catch that one name?
Yeah, no,
Marley Drake.
Yeah, that whole family's going to have about 5 more coming along the way too, right there. That's where you're going to hear about.
And she can shoot threes better than her brother.
Don't tell her brother that though.
Yeah,
he knows.
Moving along in ECIC 1 as well. You got Orchard Park with Haley Senfield is really emerging as their top threat this year. Obviously the loss of McDonald to St. Mary's really has put them back a peg in trying to overcome that and have other players step up. But again, by the end of the season, I'd expect Orchard Park to be right in that mix for the that second, third slot.
Yeah, Tim, I actually pointed them out because I really wanted to just point out something there. People don't realize how young they really are right now. And imagine if they would have had McDonald as a 9th grader here, because Senfield's only a 10th grader, averaging 20 points a game as a 10th grader right there, right? And then you've got a 9th grader, right, in Lainey Babick, who is averaging about just shy of 10 points a game right there, right? And then you got your senior Lily Buckley, and then you got Grace Cullinan, who's one of the top 5 scorers. So you go sophomore, 2 freshmen, right, a junior and a senior as your top 5 scorers come out of Orchard Park. You got to think that team's going to need some time to gel, but when they do, and these younger, women start getting some playing time and some games under their belts, what could really happen?
Oh, for sure. Like I said, I expect Orchard Park to be right in the mix once the Class AA playoffs roll around. Gary Janis, he's another veteran coach that's been through a lot of situations and coached a lot of games. So I'm sure they're working through things and again should be right there at the end with all those other top ECIC 1 teams and another team in ECIC 1 would be remiss if we didn't mention is Will North, again with Bill Shaw at the helm, another legendary coach, and they're led by Miranda Burgett, who is having a very strong season in the post for Will North. I believe she just committed to Arkansas State for track and field. I believe I saw that a couple weeks ago. Congrats to her on that. And sort of their second top scorer at the moment is just a seventh grader, Mila Bassett. Don't want to get the name wrong. Sorry, Mila Bassett. She's again just a seventh grader. Caught my eye early in the season against at the Sacred Heart tournament, and she's certainly a player to look out for the next very many years. Again, just a seventh grader, but already doing some good things at the varsity level.
So there you go. That's ECIC 1 right there. And I agree. We're going to be talking about some of the youth coming out of there. Definitely, you see when they get some games under the belt, what's going to happen. ECIC 2, no doubt, probably what we'd be talking about leading the way is Hamburg and Clara Strack. No doubt that's probably the team that we're going to be leading off the way. And then, of course, Will South right there. And we've already talked a little bit about Will South right there, especially with Gretchen Dolan, who's going to be going off to Illinois, and Clara, who's off to Virginia Tech, is where she's off to.
Yeah.
Timmy, you're going to say something.
Well, ECIC 2 is, not just probably the best league in Western New York, but one of, if not the best and deepest leagues in all of New York State. When you're talking, league play here, of course, Hamburg and Will South again, potentially on a collision course to meet in that Class A crossover game once again, but not without a lot of big challenges, particularly from some of the teams in ECIC 2. Sweet Home just played Will South this past week. It was a 76-70 Will South win, so another very close battle there. Against last year, Sweet Home swept Will South in the regular season, but Sweet Home was met by some unfortunate injury luck in the playoffs, and didn't have their full complement of rostered players once they met Hamburg in the A1 final. But if they're able to stay healthy, Sweet Home is certainly a threat to both of those teams. And again, we'll see Will South again, and still has 2 league games to play against Hamburg. So with Hamburg being back down in ECIC 2 this year after spending last year in ECIC 1, it's you have those big 3 teams each playing 2 games against each other. You throw in Iroquois, who is actually a Class B team this year, but again is in ECIC 2. They've already played Hamburg twice. One of the games was very close. And Iroquois played Hamburg this past week. I was at that game. Hamburg handled them a little easier this time. The height advantage inside, of course, by Strack, but the length of some of their other guards as well was able to give them a pretty strong advantage there in the rebounding department. And those aren't the only solid teams in ECIC 2. Amherst has shown some flashes this year, and even Starpoint and Will East as well have should be competitive. Starpoint, I believe, just played Hamburg this past week as well, and gave them a solid game. Pretty low scoring game, but yeah, it was 44-30. So nothing close to a blowout there. So this almost every single game in ECIC 2 is going to be a battle, and these teams are going to be all battle tested again when playoff time rolls around.
And then we're going to go to ECIC 3, right? No doubt we're talking about, which is the small school #1 team right now in Western New York, in Depew, leading the way right there. But Lakeshore, as we know, is a team that's always been right there in the mix, right? East Aurora and Pioneer are some of the other teams right there. But when you talk about Depew, I mean, you've got really a 1-2 punch that is just something fun to watch.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about some of the 1-2 punches from the larger schools and some of the MMA schools. Well, the 1-2 punch of Christoph and Vanelli is right up there, with any of them in the area. They went toe to toe with Lancaster right before the Christmas break, and really were in position to win that game late. Christoph hit a tying 3 with a few minutes left, and Lancaster just was a little bit too much in the final minutes. Depew was held off the scoreboard for the last, I believe it was right around 2 minutes there. But to hang with not only the crosstown rivals, but the #1 large school in the poll right now, shows that they have the ability to make a really deep run, not only in sectionals, but they're looking at probably no less than a goal of reaching Albany this year and the state semifinals, which they certainly have the potential to achieve.
And another Division I player, right? And Christoph is going off to Binghamton to play Division I basketball, right? So another Division I basketball player right here. And then Vanelli will be playing Division I softball is what she's going to be playing. But
she's committed.
Yep.
But can she change? She's sure playing basketball like she could be at least a D2 basketball player.
But she is a legitimate player of the year candidate for
that.
softball,
But
though.
right now, you should have seen her in that.
Oh, listen, she's an
Lancaster
athlete,
game.
period. I'll take her on any one of my teams.
You better believe it.
But I'm still putting her on the softball field, and that's going to be her number one sport.
But yeah, the two-man game that they're playing, some of the pick and roll plays that they're able to pull off is really high level for high school. That Christoph and Vanelli are able to get into some sets.
Well,
and
this is
really
the
take
third,
advantage
fourth
of
year they're playing together, right? I mean,
oh, for sure, yeah.
I mean that's that's one of the big keys that you're talking about. Just from we talked about all these other teams, right? The saying is you got new teams, you got new supporting casts, right? You got new people joining you, but these two have been together, and all they're doing is getting better, and better.
Yeah, and the Depew supporting cast, for lack of a better term, they're another team with a small roster. I believe they only have 8 or 9 rostered players, but just about all of the players get good amount of time. They can all play. They've all had 2 or 3 years of experience. Some of them playing together. They have a couple of seniors on their roster, and a couple also mixing in a couple of young players, but.
Really, look at it.
Much,
besides Kylie, the only one is Natalie Witt, who's a senior. Otherwise, it is a lot of juniors and sophomores, along with Kaylee's younger sisters on the team too.
Yeah, she's gotten some time. Olivia Lizak is I believe she's a freshman who had some good stretches in the postseason run for them last year, and is stepping up to be sort of their third scoring option this year. So.
To me, I thought that Lancaster Depew game. KK and Mia held their own against Maddie Francis and Rachel Komorowski. I think Brooke and Casey Mahoney were slightly above 3 and 4 from Depew, and to me, that was the difference in that ball game.
Yeah, especially in the last few minutes, Lancaster made a few defensive plays that really won them that game. But up until that point, it was really back and forth, and again a tight score. So,
and if you remember when we talked about what's going to happen in these Cardinal O'Hara Nichols or Cardinal O'Hara Lancaster games, the stars will come out and match each other is what they're going to do. Who's the supporting cast that's going to step up and get the win? And you just say, here's the supporting cast who stepped up and was that much better in the difference in a game of Lancaster getting the win.
I'm hoping that the new athletic director at O'Hara, our good friend Earl Shunk, I hope he considers opening the bleachers behind the benches for that game, because that building should be packed for that game. If you don't go to the girls O'Hara Lancaster game, you're missing out on a treat.
Well, we're going to also be broadcasting on the NFHS network, so we will be there broadcasting it. I will have Stu Boyer and myself on the call down there, so we will be there. If you can't make it, you will be able to watch that one live. So,
and just a note on O'Hara, I believe I haven't had confirmation on this from the program, but I believe what they've done for the remainder of the season is I believe they're not playing any more JV games.
They don't have a JV team.
Yeah, they no longer have a JV team, so they've
bumped up some of the times.
Their bench has definitely increased from the beginning of the season. So hopefully that'll give some kids a run. Obviously you always want to have more than 5 or 6 players able to play at a time. With foul trouble and injuries. So hopefully that'll be a good thing at least in the short term.
So if
what those kids lose by not being able to play JV, the ones that are up there are going to gain minimal varsity experience, but watch them a year or 2 from now.
and just practicing with some of those top players in the area will do wonders.
So let's go back to ECIC 3. Obviously, we gave some love to Depew right there, but what are some of the other schools that we should be watching out for right here in ECIC 3 that could absolutely be teams to watch out for in this division?
Well, I would say, you say ECIC 3 and ECIC as a whole, and you never get too far without mentioning East Aurora. One of the historical best programs in all of Western New York with one of the very best coaches, and Gary Schutram, who just believe in the past couple of games surpassed the 400 win mark for his coaching career, so a tremendous achievement there, and I believe was just recognized last night in a game against Depew for that feat. And again, East Aurora hosted Depew last night, lost a game, but it was fairly competitive throughout. That ended up around I believe a 15 or 18 point spread. But East Aurora, they're always gonna compete. You're always gonna get a good game plan out of East Aurora. You're always gonna get a well coached team, and again a well competing team.
63-44 was the final on that game.
Okay, yeah, it was I was monitoring that on a stream last night. It was competitive throughout. Never got above 20. Was a good good battle out there. But again, Depew just too much, and Depew's going to be likely too much for just about every team in ECIC 3. Lakeshore has the pedigree from past years. Not really the scoring prowess as they had before the pandemic with the Cornfield sisters and some other really top players, but they'll probably be competitive in the division. I expect them to be a top 3 or 4 team in the ECIC 3.
Young, now 3 starters that are 10th graders right there that are top scorers right there. So again, young, and what happens when they get some time under their belts?
Yeah, I mean that's really a running theme for many teams throughout Western New York, particularly on the ECIC side and the larger school. The AA, A, and B schools. A lot of young teams.
And then ECIC 4, we've got Eden, Holland, Alden right there leading the way right there in that division. Eden is a team that we talk about constantly as a top team in the ECIC 4 division.
Yeah, for sure. Eden certainly leading the way. Was able to just catch their game against Narden yesterday, and they really handled Narden pretty easily, more easily than I thought going in. But really was a great game for Eden in their own barn. They're led by Maggie Zittel, sister of Jess Zittel, who was one of their, they both starred last year's B2 championship team. But Maggie Zittel is back, and so is Ashley Ballou, their main paint presence. So that's another good 1-2 punch as they're looking to get back to the Class B2 final and potentially repeat as B2 champions. In B2, we'll talk about Southwestern a little later on, but that's very likely. Never put anything in stone, but looking ahead to a potential rematch of the Class B2 final between Eden and Southwestern would be probably another fantastic game at Buff State.
That was a great game too. So since we went there, why don't we just go over to them, right? As they are a part of the CCAA West 1 division right there, and you can see off to a 7-2 start early on this year. Tough division though when you look at the teams that are here: Olean, Randolph, Southwestern, Allegheny Limestone, Dunkirk, and then Fredonia.
Yeah, I mean historically, those are some of the most successful programs in the area. Certainly recently, I mean Fredonia had some really good seasons that they reached the regionals recently. Olean's always been a top program, historically over the past couple of decades. But Southwestern, really the class of, the southern tier, particularly on the small school side this season. I would say led by Reese Beaver, tremendous player, one of the best guards in the area, and they're also they boast Kira Ricker, Ken's daughter, who he did not have to coach against this year, as they did not match up in the Jamestown tournament, but they could have. I was kind of looking forward to that matchup, but didn't end up occurring. And they also have Bella Sirianni, again, Sirianni, Southwestern. Big shocker there.
Sirianni, Ricker, just listen to all the names there that we talk about, kind of over and over again. And Beaver's got a younger sister on the team also, Briya right there, who's coming up the ranks.
So again, that division, the CC Southern Tier divisions are always tough. Again, another sort of a no days off type of division with Randolph, probably their biggest threat this year in terms of the division. Randolph is a C school, so they wouldn't match up in the sectional play, but we'll play each other twice in the regular season.
And look at Southwestern, 7-2, but the 2 losses go against Clarence and go against Sacred Heart, which is obviously Monsignor Martin. So you can see it absolutely challenging themselves outside of Division 2.
Really testing themselves well. We'll only serve them better once they get into deep into league play and the sectional play. They actually defeated a team from Warren, PA, I believe, in the Jamestown tournament, who is a very solid, what would equate to, I believe, like a Class A school in Pennsylvania. So that was a great win for Southwestern there.
54-52, they won that game right there. We'll stick with the Chautauqua County Athletic Association West 2 division right there, as you've got Panama, Sherman, Clymer, Westfield, right? Some big teams in that, joined also by Chautauqua Lake, Maple Grove, and Silver Creek in there.
Yeah, this really is sort of would equate to the most, including most of the Class D schools, Class D teams. Of course, last year's Sherman team made it all the way to the state final, and just a great showing after a very tough road to get there. They had to defeat both Clymer and Panama in the sectionals last year. Had a very tough game against the Batavia Notre Dame, and then defeated a heavily favored, if you took this consensus from across the state, Franklin team from out of Section 4 in the semifinals with some really top players. That one of the players is now at Damon. Talking a top D2 program, and you get a player in Class D at that level. That normally equates to to a state title, but Sherman was able to really play well together. They have played some great defense in last year's sectional and state run. Last year they boasted a big 3. They have 2 of those big 3 back in Paige Grotto and Hayden Fisher. They've really been leading the way again this year. Again, another team who's played a exceedingly tough schedule, especially for a Class D program. They recently dropped a few games in the Frewsburg tournament, but again, those 2 games were to Newport and Eden. Last year's
and Eden's 6-point game. Eden was a 6-point game, a great one. And really, the game you look at right here, the games I look at in this division is a split, right? So in other words, you beat Clymer, lost to Panama, and you're going to see they will do a lot of beating up on each other in this division.
Yeah, and Westfield as well is a team who was even under my radar to begin the season, but they already have some good wins and some very competitive games against some of the top teams in that division. So another 4th team really to throw into the Class D mix. And the one unfortunate thing that occurred last year and may occur again this year is in the Class D bracket, because these 4 teams, Panama, Sherman, Clymer, Westfield, are all in the same league. At least a couple of them are going to have probably 3, 4, 5 league losses, and that's going to unfortunately bump them down in the seedings. So we may get maybe a situation as there was last year where we get 3 of these 4 teams on the same side of the bracket.
It happens a lot on multiple sports.
Last year, Panama, Sherman, and Clymer were all in the same half of the bracket. But again, to win a championship, you're going to have to beat the best at some point. So whether it comes in the quarters, semis, finals, crossover, that's just how it's shaped.
Right, and folks, just so everybody understands that, is you'll play a division where you could be playing the Chautauqua County division as far as your division in basketball, and then a team like Wilson, who will be playing in the Niagara Frontier League or the Niagara Orleans League, right? That are out there, is they could be coming together to come together to be able to play inside sectional play. And Wilson is Niagara Orleans. I wanted to make sure I clarify that. But you could easily then, when you come back, your points really are based upon league play right there, where you're getting certain points versus certain teams, and it's all those points that are put together and then rank you as far as sectional play goes.
Tom, you notice that I haven't contributed much when it comes to the smaller schools and that. Just so you know, that's why excuse me, the gentleman to my right is the Western New York guru of girls hoops.
No, thank you, Roger, for those kind words, but only learning from the best, from the great work that you've done over the years.
Well, thank you.
So let's go over back to the Chautauqua County now, the East Division, right, where you've got Portville, Falconer, Frewsburg, Cassadaga Valley, Gowanda, and Salamanca in that division.
Yeah, so another, very strong division. Probably the class of that division, in my opinion, this season would be Frewsburg. Again, they were the Class C sectional champion from a year ago and nearly made it to the state tournament, state semis. They suffered a 3-point loss on a late 3-pointer to East Rochester in last year's regionals. But they, again, the running theme of this.
Yeah, so you look at Frewsburg
young.
and you go, whoa, 3-5, and you're picking them as one of the top teams in there,
Yep.
and there's a reason why that is, right? So what are their losses? Jamestown, right? So they're playing, a double-A team in essence, right there. Mm-hmm. Lost to Panama, we've already talked about. Lost to Randolph, lost to Southwestern, and a loss to Lewiston Porter, one of the top teams in the area. So you can see, obviously, challenging their team right here to try to get ready for what's going to be their run of games that'll be inside conference.
Oh, for sure. Again, looking at the schedule they play, barely had any easy gimme games in their entire non-league schedule, which will only serve them better. And again, another young team led by the Jimersons and also the Troitskys. Unfortunately, I believe Ava Jimerson is currently injured. I'm not sure if she'll make it back for the season at all. I believe she suffered a knee injury in the offseason. But the Tatum Jimerson and also Tegan and Jaden Troitsky are again leading that team. And again, 2 sophomores and an 8th grader, another very young team. They do have to replace Lisa Pizzato, who was their top scorer from a year ago. But again, a team who once sectional play and potentially beyond comes around will be a very tough out in the Class C bracket, in my opinion.
So then we're going to go off to the Chautauqua County Athletic Association East 2 Division, and that's Forestville, Ellicottville, Cattaraugus Little Valley, North Collins, Pine Valley, and Franklinville.
Yeah, so this division, based on how they're split up somewhat geographically in the southern tier is how they split out. This definitely the weaker of the two number 2 divisions in the CCAA. But Ellicottville is a team who's had a couple good wins this year. Could definitely see them, would be my favorite in this division to come out. And because of that, again, how they're also another Class D team because of how we discussed the seeding shakeout. They could very well, if they make a run through this division, undefeated or a 1-loss run, could easily get the top seed in Class D. As you think of Class D, you think Panama, Sherman, Clymer recently. If you look at the polls, but with a seeding shakeout, the 1 seed could be a team like Ellicottville potentially down the road.
So I'm going to go Buffalo as a whole right there. Let's talk about them. And obviously, 3 of the top teams right now, City Honors, Hutch Tech, and Olmsted, are 3 of the top teams to talk about right there.
Yeah, City Honors has been the class of the Buffalo Public Schools on the girls' side for the last number of years. If you remember, a few years back with current Syracuse standout Kyra Wood, they really made a deep run and had the potential to make a regional run if it weren't for the pandemic cutting the playoffs short in a couple of those seasons. But they're still probably the top city team in my opinion. They're led by Ava Perks, who's been a long-time varsity player, another great athlete, able to play inside out. A very long athletic player, but also able to play the guard position, can shoot the 3. Hutch Tech, if you drill into they also have a standout player currently. Just wanted to get the correct name there. Yes, Jimmy Green has been lighting up the scoreboard for Hutch Tech. Definitely a player who has the capability to play at the college level. And then South Park has been another bright spot in the city with Lirsi Sabala, another name to watch out for in the BPS. So tough to, somewhat tough to get a read on the BPS team sometimes, based on their lack of non-league scheduling. But again, once sectional play comes around, they certainly have the ability to surprise some teams.
It's the same thing. They'll all fall into different spots, and you'll see a lot of these teams get some very high rankings right there because of all the points that they're going to get during conference play right there.
Well, Tim, isn't this the first year since the pandemic that they can schedule games outside the Buffalo Public Schools?
I believe so. I believe they.
That restriction is no longer there, is it?
No, it's not. Correct. You're correct, Roger. It's no longer there. City Honors played in the Iroquois tournament to open the season.
That's correct.
Got some good games in against Iroquois and Springville. So they're definitely at least one team who is testing themselves outside of the BPS, and should serve them well come sectional play again.
So 2 more divisions left to finish this one off, and let's go to the Niagara Frontier League next, which probably has the biggest surprise right now in Western New York, you could say, as far as what we've seen record-wise, and that's Kenmore West.
Yeah, again, my alma mater, Kenmore West. Again, historically has been a
what is this, pick on Francis Day?
Historically, a strong program over the past number of decades. Look really building back up over the last couple of years, led by Sophie Bassano and Dalia Lake, who have really been playing well for Ken West. A team who really is if you watch them play, a true definition of a team. No really standout 1 or 2 players, but play great team defense. Able to play 7, 8, 9 players at times, and really well balanced team who. Could make some noise. Already is making noise in NFL, and could potentially surprise some teams in sectional play. Some of the more talked about, highly regarded teams or players. Kenmore West doesn't necessarily have, again, one of those standout Division I type of players, but they truly play as a team. As good as just about anybody in Section 6 right now.
Top 3 players, all within 14 points of each other, right? So you can see, and Addie Vanderwater is the other one we want to add into the mix right there. And you can see is when you've got that, you're not worried about if my top scorer gets shut down, where are my points going to come from? Ken West is a perfect example of that team basketball to make sure that it could come from anywhere, and you don't know. You better make sure that you're guarding the entire team right here and be able to play good team defense.
Yeah, and again, foul trouble doesn't come into play quite as much with a team as deep as Ken West as it may for some other teams as well.
How does Ken West match up in the Niagara Frontier League against Newport?
Well, they're going to match up with them. It's just the one game this year that Ken West and Newport will meet due to the NFL structure. I believe they're back to breaking it out into like the larger and smaller schools on the NFL side, and I believe we'll also be playing an NFL championship game once again with the large and small division winners. But you talk about Newport, of course, the Class B representative, Class B champion in Section 6 last year, lost to eventual state finals Waterloo in the regionals, but of course led by once again, Sophie Auer, who is committed to Damon, another top college program commit in the area. Just really an all-around player. Can do it all. Can play inside, can play outside, can run the floor really well. Sees the floor, as good as almost anyone in Section 6, and has really improved her scoring and shooting touch over the past couple of years as well.
In my opinion, top 5, and that's saying quite a bit. Her only problem is she's not flashy, so she doesn't get quite as noticed. But, boy, a pleasure to watch.
Quite as noticed. I'm telling you, she's on every radar I know about. I mean, Sophie Auer, if you don't know who she is, then you ain't watching basketball out there because she's that good, and it doesn't matter what the sport is. She will show you her athletic ability in multiple sports. We already saw in soccer where she was dominant in the championship game to have them advance out of the section there. Yep. This young woman is amazing as far as an athlete out here in Western New York.
Thank you, Tom. She needed that because I don't think she ever gives as much recognition as she deserves.
I actually, in my season previews, I actually added something about the potential for Newport and Sophie Auer to achieve 2 regionals in back-to-back years in 2 different sports. As Newport made the regionals in soccer last year and this season, made the regionals in basketball, and certainly have the potential to be one of the top teams to challenge for this Class B sectional title in basketball again. So, if they are able to achieve that feat, that's something that is rarely seen in one sport, let alone 2, reaching the regionals or beyond in back-to-back seasons.
She's also that unique player that we've been talking about with Maddie Francis, right? And that can play every position on the court, right? You can put her at point guard and let her lead the way for your team, but at the same one, she can go down low and bang with anybody and keep you out of the paint, which is why I absolutely love her game, because you could put her anywhere on the court. And in fact, next year when she gets to that next level, I wouldn't be surprised to see her play guard or small forward or even a big forward type position because of what she can do out there in the court.
Yeah, and just thinking of the way that Damon sort of structures their team, they at times sort of play a positionless style. So she could play a number of positions on the court for Damon.
So anyone else in the NFL league that we want to that is out there that could be some team that we talk about?
Yeah, there's certainly a couple other teams in the NFL. Lockport, I would mention them. They are a pretty deep team in terms of options. On any given night, they have a number of players who could show up on the score sheet. Ezreal Hall is one, D.R. Darrell as well. Another team who's played a very strong non-league slate. Again, going out and playing Irondequoit, a traditionally strong team in Section 5, and already playing Sacred Heart.
And you can see good games. Lost to Will East by 3, right? Kenmore West by 6, Wilson by 5. It's not like they're going out there and getting blown out in these games, right? They're very good games that they've been in, because when you look at their record, you go, oh, really? Is it one of those? But no, they're in those games, and they're absolutely challenging their team against upper-level teams. So no doubt about it. So if we finish out our last conference right here, we're going to go to the new Niagara Orleans conference, where I think we're going to probably be talking about the team we love to talk about, and that's Wilson.
Yeah, Wilson, again, should be the class of the NOL. Again, led by Coach Brian Baker, one of the top coaches in the area. They're led by, on the court, Ryan Fieri and Peyton McGinnis. And, again, another team who you may not look at and say they have these, D1, D2 type of talents on the basketball court, but a team who really plays tough defense every season, plays team basketball, and is always going to be a tough out no matter who they play. And another team who's tested themselves in the non-league as well.
And he really has. Ferry, Frericks, right? All names we all recognize when it comes to that Wilson program that's out there. But it looks like early on that they're usually the team that's going to come out there. And that you got to love coaches that challenge themselves. And you could see, listen to the schedule. Springville, Iroquois, that's the one of their losses, Iroquois. Kenmore West was the other loss again. But Roy Hart in conference with a big win, beats Lockport, beats Grand Island. I think this, to me, was one of the big wins over East Aurora right there is what you look at as a big win right there for the Wilson team.
Yeah.
Anybody else in Niagara Orleans that you think could come out of the Niagara Orleans division?
I mean, I don't have the
not that could roll with Wilson.
NOL this year, but I'm sure they'll get some tough games.
And again, conference games are always conference games, because then what you talk about, it's rivalry games, right, that come out there, and that'll be big key is what'll be the rivalry game that comes out in there. Newt-Bain is always a team that plays well, that's in that division right there, and you can see Albion, Akron, Wilson, Newfane, Roy Hart, Barker, and Medina is who makes up the Niagara Orleans Conference. So, I mean, that's pretty much all the conferences right there when you talk about is, Tim, when you look early on in this season, what would you probably say right now is the theme to girls basketball so far this season?
Well, we sort of touched on it, a few things in earlier on. I would say the youth movement across the area, the number of top Division I and Division II type players that we currently have in this area. It's something that we're not always going to have. It's cyclical for many areas. So just really, if you can, go out and see some of these great players who you're going to be able to see on TV in some big conferences, or even at the D2 level on some great programs in the future. But if you get a chance, go out and give these players some of your time and catch them, and they're very exciting to watch, and the level of athleticism and play is really high with some of these programs.
And I think it's going to get even stronger, because what I'm looking at is normally these teams, when you look at, especially in the girls' side, you've got multiple 7th and 8th graders that are making a huge impact on teams, right? I don't see as many 7th and 8th graders, because those 7th and 8th graders are now 9th, 10th graders that are just playing that good of basketball right now and bringing the talents as high as they are.
That's very true.
The other thing, staying healthy, the injuries. Look at St. Mary's. They're without Mackenzie Owens. What's the girl that just Sinibaldi that just got hurt?
Yeah,
and Iroquois staying healthy. A lot of these teams, you go out there and you don't realize it. Well, where's so-and-so? And then you look, she's on the bench in civilian clothes. She won't be back till February, which is good. Keep them out until early, middle February. That's when the games really count.
Yeah, just a note on Iroquois there. They got back Molly Mescal, one of their top players who was out with an injury for a while, just the last game against Amherst.
That's correct.
In the same game, McKenna Sinibaldi went out with an injury, so.
It was ironic. They still had Mescal's crutches there from when she was hurt. How convenient was that? Because Sinibaldi's the injury. She will not be back. She might have been better off with a hairline fracture. That didn't, rolling to the ankle the way she did the other night was not pretty.
That's too bad.
Frank, what do you think? Anything you want to add?
Well, no. Obviously, I always wish my cousins good luck coaching at Lockport. Joe Catalano and my cousin Karen, who's having a rough go at Kimmery. She's one of the best coaches out there. Just tough time getting kids to come out and finding those players in Kenton area.
That's a shame, because Karen works so hard. I have seen that. She takes it so seriously.
Yeah, and I have uncles on the bench at Kemmer West on the girls' side too. So girls' basketball runs deep in the veins. I like going out to pretty much any game. It doesn't matter. I don't have to go to a Lockport or an East or a West game. I like going out and seeing what's going on at St. Mary's. I like to see what's going on. I could see O'Hara, obviously. They're in the backyard, but I want to know what's going on with Sweet Home. I want to see how the Williamsville schools are progressing. Are they catching up to Will South? Coach Bill at Will North always does a fantastic job with those girls.
Do never look ahead of the schedule when you got Will North coming up. Phil Shaw will make you regret it if you do.
He certainly will. And then I like what's going on down at Southwestern. I like what's going on with some of those smaller schools. And you can't never say enough about what Coach Baker does with Wilson. Those are my 2 cents. Those are some of the best programs to see in the area. And you're right, Tim. You got to go out and see these girls. They do put in a lot of effort each week, and it's good basketball.
And when you say coaches, Southwestern coach Casey Ariani, Jay's wife, she's been there for quite a few years. In fact, I go back at least as far as when she was carrying her daughter, who is now one of her players.
It's amazing.
Where did the years go?
not far, but this was a great show today where we're able to talk about girls basketball in depth. Well over an hour. You know, Roger did Inside High School Sports for many years. I'm lucky enough to invite us on back in 2016 with Tony. And I hope to get Tony in here too with you, Roger, to get you guys together again. We just got to see how the schedules work out for you and Tony. But having a guy like Tim in studio today to really give us that in-depth knowledge along with you, Roger, has been invaluable to a lot of people out there today that watch the show. And I don't know if there's another high school sports show like this in the state. So hopefully we can keep it going with interesting guests each week and highlighting these sports. Girls basketball doesn't get enough credit. Girls sports in general don't get enough credit, or they're not showcased like the boys. So I'm glad we were able to do this.
Yeah, well, it's my pleasure being here, Frank. Look forward to returning.
Yeah, I echo that. Thanks for having me, guys. Appreciate it.
Tim, are we going to see Missy at Bus State?
Oh, yeah. For sure.
Plus 3?
No. Just
well,
we got the two. The 2 is enough for us.
Okay, all right.
Frank, you gotta
see him on the court soon. Then.
You gotta keep in mind, Missy's got a sister who has 3 of her own, so Grandma is very, very busy. Grandma used to teach at Immaculata High School.
Very interesting. Very interesting. But Francis did a heck of a job today producing the show. You did a really good job. I know you're without a mic, but you're giving us thumbs up, so that must mean he's wearing shorts.
What a surprise.
It's not that cold out.
Anyways.
He celebrated his 25th birthday.
And it's below his threshold, too.
25
It's
years
below
old.
the 40-degry threshold, and he's still wearing his shorts. So,
I'm not outside for.
but he has a jacket on, though, right?
But the grass is green. After all that snow, most of the grass in Western New York is green. So, of course, Frank's going to be wearing shorts. Or Francis, excuse me.
Well, guys, thank you very much for coming in studio today. Thanks to our sponsors, Western New York Immediate Care, Empire Electric, good old Tony Pulvereni, former AD and boys basketball coach at O'Hara. If you have any electrical needs, give Tony a shout out. Tony Pulvereni, they do great work over there at Empire Electric. I wanted to mention Nick Massaro, St. Joe's wrestler, since we're doing Section 6 wrestling duels later today. Massaro from St. Joe's, just a junior, had his 100th win last night on the MAC. Congratulations to Nick Massaro of St. Joe's. Incredible accomplishment. We had a 300 bowler earlier in the week. From Grand Island, we should mention his name. I don't know if you have it off the tip of your tongue, Francis.
Yeah, I do.
I apologize for putting you on the spot, but I'd like to recognize that young man.
Talon Newton.
Talon, congratulations on rolling that 300. Francis, what do we have being streamed today on the NFHS network besides the wrestling duels? Are we also in Jamestown?
Yeah, 2:30 we have Jamestown and Clarence girls basketball.
All right, that should be a pretty good one then, I hope. Tom,
Jamestown and Bill North.
Jamestown, what, Billy Shaw's down there?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
That should be a good one.
That should be a good
down
one.
south?
Yep, down in Jamestown.
If we leave now, we can get there and stop at Davidson's. We can. Tom, what about that game we talked about earlier, or we didn't get a chance to talk about before we close the show? Newport lost to Clarence in boys basketball. You were caught off. I thought you were a little surprised by that one.
Oh, it was the one game when you look at, right, is not that I was surprised about it. I was actually a little bit surprised by the score by it because, I mean, Lewiston Porter is obviously, to me, still one of the top boys teams inside Western New York when you look at that. And obviously that's their only loss on the season, and it was a 20-point loss, 72-52. And I was just kind of like, you know what I mean? It was one of those anomalies to me that I kind of was going as I would have expected it to just be a closer game. And my first thing when I do that is I'll go right away and say, did a top player not play? But when you look at the scoring thread for Lewiston Porter, Jalen Duff still had 27 in that one, Vinnie Carlo 15, Bobby Beeline 7, and Grayson Carnwell had 3 in that one, and that was the scoring right there. Okay. So, but obviously led the way. Clarence has a big game by their star, Grayson White, who had 20. Sean Gilmartin had 19 in that one. Alex Quinn had 17. So you can see a little bit more spread the wealth right there, and Clarence just got it. And you look at it, Lewiston Porter's up after the first quarter. The second quarter, They're now down by 8 in the game, and then Clarence comes out after halftime really with a 23-12 run. It's 11 points, and that's a difference right there in the game.
And just to squelch any rumors, I am not under investigation for espionage with the Olean basketball team. Coach K has my highest, I hold him in high regard. He does an excellent job with those kids down there. Kate Anastasia is a wonderful athlete. That's one of the big reasons why I attended that game last night. And it was the only seat left in the house, was pretty much on the Olean bench. So, Chad, I love the tweet. Love you. But no, I am not under investigation for espionage. If anything, it's a team playing Kenmore West in the upcoming weeks, you'd think, but no.
That's always confusing to me. I'm thinking, what the hell does Frank Wolf have in connection with Mike Krzyzewski? Coach K? Frank Wolf? Where did that come from?
I wanted Coach K's autograph. A different Coach K. But anyways, Francis, on Monday you got a couple of hockey games too, right? You want to mention? What should we mention? We got Kenmore West Hamburg. Williamsville East Hamburg.
Williamsville East Hamburg 8:15.
8:15.
At 5 o'clock is Kenmore West and Grand Island.
Kenmore West, Grand Island hockey. 2 great games. You'll see them on the NFHS Network. Subscribe to NFHS Network. If you subscribe now, folks, you'll have it throughout the rest of the month. It's about $10.
You'll have it for the whole postseason.
You'll have it for essentially the postseason. So that's something you really should do. And you'll hear Stu Boyer, you'll hear Tom, and the rest of the guys. They call a good game, and it's a quality broadcast. So subscribe to the NFHS Network. You'll be helping them out. You'll be helping Section 6 out, those schools that have NFHS, and you'll also be helping us out at the same time. So that's how one way you can help support WNYA Athletics continue to produce these streams and great shows like today.
Francis, what's the acronym for the Ken West Grand Island game? Queechy? You know how you do that?
Oh, you mean
with,
the girls?
like,
Well, these are boys teams, but the,
Oh, okay. You have
funny
cash.
story, we talked about it, Kenji actually added Lockport, so they're Kenji boys.
And then Hughes added another team too.
Yeah.
Holland. I call him Shoe.
Well, no.
Which is out of order, but.
Whatever happened to that cashew game we always talked about?
Oh, we have to change cashew because there's another H.
Yes.
But not
I just added 2. So it's a long shoe.
Cash and shoe. We're going to play in a macadamia bowl.
No, the nut bowl.
Either way, looking forward to it.
You guys are bad, you know that?
And we're getting hungry around here too, so that'll do it for the latest edition of WNYA Athletics High School Sports Saturday. Catch us next week, 9 to 11, same program, same time, same beautiful faces. We'll see you next week. For Tom Prince, Francis Beck, Roger Weiss.
Thanks for having me.
And Timmy Linder, I'm Frank Wolf. See you next week on WNYA Athletics High School Sports Saturday.